Alright, Cringe Console, today we have two stories, hopefully interesting enough, and it's up to you to decide who was in the wrong. Am I the asshole? DM says no at almost every opportunity and nerfs my character. Okay. So, before I even joined the game, I had a feeling the DM didn't really like me as a player. Which was weird, because he had never actually played with me or DM'd for me before. I even told my partner, who is in the game, that maybe I should drop out. I just wasn't sure he'd be able to DM for me fairly, and that was before session 0. Things started out light. He knew that in my usual group, my DM lets me play the 2024 version of the Monk without the nerfed stunning strike. But this new DM said, not in my game, you can't mix and match rules. Which I pretty much support. I don't know much about the 2024 rules still, but monks there, at least I read about monks, are pretty powerful, and 2024 monk will beat the shit out of 2014 one, right? Which, okay, fair enough, but he did say we could use the 2024 rules overall, so I made a 2024 Barbarian, Path of Wild Magic. And then he tells me that still counts as mixing rules. So I say okay and switch over to the 2014 Barbarian, even though 2024 is supposed to be backwards compatible. I did bring that up and explained that it's actually rules as written and intended to work like that. His reasoning? He didn't want to create one rule for me and another for newer players, because he didn't want them to feel overwhelmed. Fair enough, I didn't argue with that. And then came my backstory. He told me to read the Tal'Darai book to get the lore right, so I did. I read everything I could find on Goliaths, barbarians and giants. I used the giant foundling background. So here is what I came up with. When my character was 17, almost an adult, he went skinny dipping during a date. While he was in the water, his date, who was undressing behind some trees, got interrupted. Out of nowhere, a cloud giant shows up, thinks my character is a runt of a cloud giant toddler, and basically abducts him. In the Tal'Darai setting, Cloud giants live in invisible castles floating in the sky. They travel in circles around the continent, surrounded by storms. So I imagined this weird, sad, gilded cage for my character, luxury everywhere but treated like a child. They made him fight beasts for entertainment, supposedly to toughen him up, while they gambled on the fights. In their eyes, they were helping him, but in his eyes, it was just a fancy prison. Here is where it ties into the world lore. The Goliaths in the Stormcrest Mountains in the south breed and sell wyverns, which cloud giants do buy. That's straight from the book. I decided my character was originally came from the Cliffkeep Mountains up north. The campaign premise was that our characters either committed a crime or were accused of one. So my character's crime was this: he stole a wyvern from the giants who were keeping him and rode it down to the ground. He is 32 now and finally free. So here's how my character gets arrested. After stealing the wyvern and flying it down to escape the cloud giants, the wyvern ends up attacking someone. Turns out I didn't exactly know how to handle a wyvern, and that's what lands my character in prison. Now here's where the backstory bumps really started. The DM tells me that the cloud giants can't live in floating castles, because according to him, the setting already has floating cities, and both things existing would somehow clash. I didn't say this at the time, but you know, the sky is pretty big fucking place. He also says that the cloud giants now live in the Cliffkeep Mountains instead. I push back a little, pointing out that that's actually where Goliaths are canonically from. They live in the mountain tops there. That's where I had originally placed my character's heart. And in Wildmount, Goliaths live even further north than that. But he stands firm. And I'm like, alright. Fair enough. He then tells me I'm doing too much with my backstory, which honestly wasn't long or overcomplicated. It was just well researched. Still, I roll with it. I say, okay, we will ignore where the cloud giants live. I'm still from the Cliffkeep Mountains. I still get arrested after the wyvern incident, and I'm sent to a prison down south in Stilben after trying to find the Stormcrest Goliaths to ask for directions to my heart. Cool. No problem. The DM also tells me that Goliaths are violent nomads who sack cities and pillages. This is his interpretation, based on Critical Role, not the official books. It took some real convincing to let my character even have a herd. And just to be clear, he had no plans to include any Goliath herds in the world. So this wasn't about campaign balance. It just felt like he wanted Goliaths to be one thing. Period. Now, so far I don't agree with a lot of his decisions, but I accepted them. This is only my second time playing under a DM, that's not my usual one, and I get it, everyone runs games differently. Then comes session 1, and honestly, he was fun. He was really fun DM. Everyone was having a great time. I go into combat, use my rage, swim, miss, and he ends my rage. I must have made a face, because he pauses and offers to let me check the rule. So I pull out my player's handbook, read the rule out loud, and the rule is clear. You don't have to hit. You just have to attack or take damage to maintain rage. But he rules that you do need to hit for rage to continue. So I shrug and say, okay, fair enough, and keep playing the rest of the session. So after session 1 we are hanging out at the bar where we play, just me, the DM and my usual DM. I bring up that rage thing. Oh, suddenly electricity turns on. Alright. I bring up the rage thing and say, mate, that's not how rage works. That would be a huge nerf. He says okay, he'll look into it. I wasn't feeling great that night anyway, so I dipped and left it there. Fast forward to the next day. I go back to the bar, same place, and he is on shift. He is also a supervisor there, by the way. Session 1 was literally just yesterday. I had my dice in my bag, so I figured I'd roll my health point for level 3 while he was around to witness it. While I'm doing that, he brings up the rage thing again. He says he looked into it and he's sticking to his ruling. Now, I had looked into it too. I checked rules, forums, posts, everything. I couldn't find a single official rule, community consensus, or even anecdotal comment that agreed with him. So I asked where he got it from. He tells me that's how my DM ruled in 10 years ago. It is how I've ruled it ever since. And it is how they do it in Critical Role. Now, I've only seen Vox Machina, but I highly doubt that's true. Still, I just say okay and start looking at other Barbarian's paths. I originally wanted to go path of wild magic because it gives you extra abilities as long as your rage is active. But with this house rule, rage barely stays up unless you hit every time. And with a 12 AC, I'm not exactly a powerhouse. At this point, I'm really on the fence. I'm sitting there thinking, is he like this with everyone? Or is it just me? Does he even want me in the game? I had my character sheet out, trying to level up, but I couldn't focus. I ended up closing it without making any decisions and just put my notebook back in my bag. Then his co-worker comes in to start their shift and the DM decides to poke fun at me, saying something like, yeah, Max is pouting because he can't have his way with the rage. And that was it. That's when I realized he is trying to piss me off. So I just asked him straight up, do you even want me in this game? Because it doesn't feel like it. I ended up quitting right then and there. I tried to explain why, brought up the stuff I've mentioned here, tried to tell him why I felt like his ruling were unreasonable and how it genuinely felt like he had it out for me, but he kept interrupting me, like a lot. Which, now that I think about it, he'd done before any time I tried to talk about my character. What is his problem anyway? I don't really understand. Maybe the personality of OP didn't fit with this DM, I don't know. But the rage thing, I think that you just need to attack. Yeah, so I just told him, no hard feelings, but I don't think he can DM for me impartially. He clearly has a negative opinion of me, and it feels like he's trying to shut me down before I even done anything wrong. And I'm not here for that. I've done nothing but come in with enthusiasm, I hand drew my entire character sheet, I painted my mini, I literally finished painting it that day. So yeah, I left the game and honestly I think it was the right call. I pretty much agree with the OP and I would definitely quit the game as well, but I would love to hear the story of the DM himself. Maybe he made a comment under this post. It sounds like main character syndrome. You insist on making an uber character and get frustrated when he tries to rein you in. No, he just wanted his barbarian to be built according to actual rules, and that's pretty much it. The DM so bad he made me start DMing. A few years ago, I posted about some creepy stuff I encountered in TTRPGs, and one of the DMs I mentioned is this guy. Recently I was talking to some friends about the worst campaign we've ever played, and I realized that this DM definitely deserves a post of his own. Sounds promising. So let's call him Dan. I'm sorry in advance if I get any details about the campaign or 5e wrong, since it's been a while since I played 5e. I found Dan on Roll20 while looking for a paid game. He was running a Greek mythology-inspired module that he claimed he had some hand in creating, which he said made him an expert on it. That sounded pretty good to me, and on paper it seemed like a solid deal. Session 0 comes around and it's just me, a guy I'll call Centaur, and one other guy. The session was fine, but then the third guy dropped out, so we couldn't start the campaign. I was disappointed. I reached out to some friends from other groups and ended up getting Barbarian, who was DMing for us in another game, so he was pumped to play as a player, and the Rogue, a close friend who already played with me in other games. And then I mentioned it to a third friend. Let's call her Crush. She told me she'd played in one of Dan's other games and that he was okay as a DM. The module was cool and the time slot worked for everyone, so she decided to join us, which was awesome. We had a quick second session 0 to go over rules and decided to roll for stats. My rolls were pretty good for an MAD character, 16 and 2 15s, so I chose to play a Radiant Soul Monk, a demigod son of the god of war. It was part of the official module, not some overpowered homebrew. Barbarian, Rogue and a Centaur picked their characters too, and Crush chose to play a Warlock who was also a demigod, though I think that was just part of her backstory, not a class feature. She was the daughter of the Storm Titan, who I think was the big bad of the module. We all got excited about writing our backstories, but Dan says, "Yeah, you can write backstories if you want, but I probably won't read them, just give me short character concepts." Okay, no big deal. So I end up with a lizard folk monk, a demigod with a folk hero background. This will matter later. So far so good. Between sessions we are joined by a new player, Druid. And let me tell you, Druid is one of the worst players I've ever had the misfortune of playing with. He turned out to be a creep and a cheater. So much so that I might have to dedicate a whole post to him later. Let's see about this post and then decide if we want to hear about the Druid player. Because so far it seems like a nice party, nice game, which I would like to join. But for now, here's what you need to know. He rolls his stats and ends up with 3 stats in the 17-18 range, which seemed really weird. So I checked the VTT and surprise! His macro wasn't set to roll 4d6 and drop the lowest. No, it was set to roll 4d6, reroll the lowest, and then drop the lowest. Straight up cheating. I pointed this out to him and his response? Whoopsie, I made a small mistake. He says it all coy and playful, but at this point I don't really know him. Crush though tells me he is harmless. He's been in one of her other games, so I let it slide. At the DM, then doesn't seem to care, he just goes, oh, I suppose he'll just reroll or something. And that's that. Druid rerolls, and his stats are more reasonable. But this whole situation shows that Dan wasn't really paying attention to the rolls or even caring. The module starts, and it's okay-ish. But we start to notice that most of the NPCs only want to interact with one of us. Guess who? Crush. Yep, she's the only one getting all of the NPC attention. But to be fair, she's the only one with a high charisma, so we just figured out it's because she's the party face. No big deal. Then the inciting incident happens. I think it involved an egg from a monster we killed, and the two of us wanted it. Me and Crush. Now, me and Crush can be pretty loud and opinionated, and we've clashed before, which has led to some great RP and some awesome in-character drama, but then, as the DM, wasn't really aware of how we usually interact. So when we both wanted the egg, I suggested we roll for it, like athletic or something, and then immediately says, no rolls, I don't allow PvP at the table, she gets it. And I'm like, what do you mean she gets it? We both want it. Rolling for it seems fair, this isn't PvP. And then just goes, no, she said she wants it first, she gets it. I'm annoyed, but whatever, that's his ruling, the DM is God, right? Right. So I sulk a little, but accept it. Here's the kicker though. That one disagreement with Crush basically flipped the entire world against my character. No NPC would treat him like anything other than a total joke. This is a demigod and the folk hero, by the way. Remember? Still, every NPC I tried to talk to treated me like I was the dumbest, most annoying person ever. When I meet my character's uncle, the god of the forge, he just brushes me off. And when we meet my character's dad, he's dead, the most important NPC in the whole storyline. And what happens? He sends me off on a mission to rescue his other child. That's just part of the module. But when I try to talk to him, all he says is, I don't care at all, just go rescue the kid I actually care about. And that's it, okay? The rescue mission takes us to one of my character's half-brothers, who's captured by the kid we were sent to save. But guess what? This half-brother doesn't care about my character either. No animosity, no rivalry, nothing. He's just there. On the way to find him, though, we run into two harpies. These harpies threaten to eat my character, but the way they are phrased, it kind of sounds flirty? So I roll with it, I embrace the gag, and my character just goes along with it. So now there is this random throwaway gag, where my character sneaks off with the harpies for a bit. At least I thought it was throwaway, but it comes up again later. We manage to rescue the kid, but once again, my character's dad does not care. Not even a thank you, not even an ounce of meaningful RP. Nothing. Plot needs to move forward and we get a divine guidance, but not from my character's dad, of course. No, instead Crush's character gets a prophetic dream where her dad, the Storm Titan, who is also the big bad evil guy, tells her how important she is and how he wants to destroy the world, and she better not stop him. So now she gets to have some great RP. Meanwhile, all the NPCs keep commenting on how amazing she is, how beautiful, how smart and how wonderful she is. I swear, even our enemies were admiring her. Now, a quick side story about the druid. After Crush wakes up from her nightmare, screaming, and we all rush in to check on her, she tells us what happened. We are all worried, but we move on. Druid, though, in his very normal way, asks if he should spend the night to protect her. Keep in mind, he is playing a scholarly druid, and she's playing a badass soldier warlock demigod. She tells him no. So druid doesn't completely understand the thing, he shifts into a raccoon and sleeps by her window. OP, you take too much pressure on this poor bastard druid. And the other way, protect a soldier warlock from a bad dream in the shape of a raccoon. It doesn't sound like the smartest way, but still legit, I guess. The next session, Crush has to go to the dentist or something, so she misses that session. Usually when someone misses a session, the game just goes on as usual. Well, not this time. Of course, since it's Crush missing, the plot can't continue. Instead, we travel through the forest and get randomly attacked by mindless bandits. These bandits don't make sense lore-wise, don't pose a challenge, don't have any personalities, they are just there to waste our time while we wait for Crush to come back. And then, surprisingly, she logs in mid-session. And then the DM immediately shouts into the mic, "Oh, thank fuck. He sounds so relieved. We can move the plot along now. So yeah, it's not just me. Dan definitely didn't want to move the plot forward without Crush. We finally head to the forest hideout of some nymph or something. I think we negotiated with her, or maybe there was a boss fight, I'm not really sure. I don't think she died though, I think she was eating people or something. Anyway, when we finally exit her hideout with some rescued kid, all beaten up and unable to fight anymore, we are told we can leave, but we will have to sacrifice something great. So here's the moment that really broke me. Out of a character before the session, I told Dan that I wasn't really feeling my subclass and asked if there was any chance I could change it to the monk subclass from the module, which was a warrior monk using a shield. It seemed like a cool fit. I figured that this might be the perfect moment to make the change. So, my character decides he is willing to sacrifice his divinity for the safe passage of the party. I describe his avatar leaving him. This could have been a great, heroic moment, and for exactly 8 seconds it was. But then, 2 harpies suddenly descend from the canopy, drop off 2 babies into my character's arms, and fly off. Oh, right? Because why give me that cool character moment when this happens instead? In 5 minutes, then completely sidestepped anything meaningful and turned it into a joke. Good job, Dan. Now, we are stuck with my character's 2 monster babies. Obviously, we can't bring them alone on this dangerous adventure, so we decide to drop them off in my character's hometown. I should remind you, this is the hometown where my character is a folk hero. Naturally, we get there and every single NPC we meet immediately goes, "Oh great, it's that idiot again. I thought he was gone for good." Not a single NPC remembers my character fondly. In fact, 2 characters in the entire world are the only ones who show any positive emotions toward him, the harpies. That's it. Even his own babies didn't like him. Eventually we find 2 people who are willing to babysit, and that's when the session ends. At that point I realized I wasn't going to keep paying money every week to be treated like garbage, so I left. Dan didn't seem to care, so that was that. They kept the game going without me, replacing my character with a new one, a ranger, a friend of Centaur. Since I was still playing 2 other weekly sessions with most of these people, I got some updates on what happened in the campaign after I left. Rogue had exactly 2 lines of a backstory. She was a Medusa, she was banished from her tribe because she's Medusa. Of course, the very next session, they run into the literal princess of her tribe, the woman who banished her, and she just says, "Oh sister, it's wonderful to see you here." So yeah, I guess Dan wasn't kidding about not reading backstories. And then there was Barbarian. According to the module, Barbarian was supposed to receive some epic treasure as part of his epic path, but instead Dan decided it was better that Crush got that item, on top of every other epic treasure he handed out to her. So, you know, everyone gets a win, but the actual players who should have earned it. Then decided that the model needed to be altered and improved to really let him shine. The problem? He didn't actually come up with a meaningful plot. Instead, we got this super cool villain that felt like he was stolen straight out of Persona 3, and the whole thing spiraled into a long, pointless dungeon crawl. The pacing was a mess, and it got so bad that one session Dan was so unprepared that he literally set us down on a blank map and started dropping tiles as we went. He kept randomly initiating combat to buy time. It was such a disaster. At that point, even Rogue, who was usually the sweetest and most chill person, got angry. And when I hinted I might run my own campaign for the first time, she not only supported me, but she actively recruited everyone else to join, except Druid. I decided to run my own campaign. The story does have a bittersweet happy-endish ending, though. Druid got creepier and cheated more as time went on. Eventually he was removed from all games. With the Rogue's encouragement, I started my own campaign, which ended up running for almost 2 years. It included Barbarian, Crush, Rogue, Ranger, Centaur. It had amazing role-playing, including a romance between Crush and Barbarian. Purely in character, of course, they are just friends in real life. It was so good that Crush and Barbarian even commissioned artwork of their characters together, and I like to think I had at least a little role in making that happen. Barbarian and Centaur played twin sons of Asmodeus. One was this goofy anime-type character, and the other was a super serious assassin, basically the opposite of the goofy one. It was pretty awesome. Barbarian was our usual DM, but due to scheduling issues, he stopped playing with us about 2 years ago. He and Crush still play together though. Rogue and Ranger had an epic storyline where I revealed a twist that they were actually sisters. One was a UNT assassin, patroned by the goddess of redemption, and forced to do good deeds against her will, while the other was a Gorgon, because their dad sacrificed her to a dead snake god who whispered to her in her dreams. After Barbarian stopped DMing, Centaur took over. More of our group joined, including Rogue and Ranger. I no longer DM, work just doesn't leave the time, but 3 of us still play together every week. Now then, about a year and a half ago, Rogue's player tragically passed away. Rogue was the heart of every group she was a part of, and we miss her every day. She was an incredible player, an amazing person, and a huge loss to everyone who knew her. It doesn't sound like a happy end. This sounds sad. Despite everything, our group kept going with some new players who we met through those games. So even though that campaign was a total mess, I'm grateful for it. It pushed me to start DMing my own campaigns, and it brought Centaur and Ranger into my life. I love you guys. And if you've made it this far in my rambling story, thank you for reading. It feels good to finally tell this old tale. I joined the author and want to thank you for watching this video up to this point. Leave a like if you liked it. Don't neglect some little things, the ones that make YouTubers so happy. And until the next time.